Senator Scott. I'm going to ask some questions now, and then when the chair returns, she'll, I think, provide Senator Langford the opportunity to speak, and then we'll finally get to Senator Blumenthal. A couple of questions. There's a great deal being written about the degree of leakage, if you will, of things that are not supposed to be exported from our country or from our friends that are somehow getting in the hands of adversaries of one kind or another. How great a problem do you think that is? I mean, how much, how many, I mean, is this a tiny share of those things that are most sensitive, or is this a pretty significant problem that we need to address? And any one of you can respond to that. Maybe I'll go over to Mr. Mancuso, which is this, and I realize we got a lot of things in the list, and so some things they're not terribly interested in, but I'm thinking particularly about large-scale chips that go into AI or other key defense technologies. How much of that is getting through, do we think? Is this, are we a sieve? Are we, you know, not really a sieve, but drip, drip, drip? What's kind of the characterization of what's getting around our export controls?
Thank you for that question. I can say this, as the Assistant Director for Global Trade, I think the sheer volume of legitimate trade far outweighs the illicit trade that's going on. However, that small slice is of concern. So what you have is you have folks at this table, all the 20 partners at the E2C2, the intelligence community, all of us are completely laser focused on retaining America's innovation, our creativity, our intellectual property right. We develop the most advanced weapon systems in the world. Because of our ability to create this, we are the envy of the entire world. That also means our adversaries will stop at nothing to obtain this technology in these weapon systems. So with that being said, we are focused on this issue. We are an investigative agency looking at these agencies, attempting to disrupt and dismantle the flow of this technology. And it concerns all of us. Like I said, we're focused. I'm also concerned the day that they don't want our technology, the day that we aren't the world leader, because that means that they've surpassed us and they've become superior. And all of us at this table are laser focused, making sure that day never happens.
Yeah, I think there's a recognition that with regards to AI in particular, it's very difficult to control the software. And some software on AI has already been put on open source and represents, in my view, a huge breach of poor judgment or breach of good judgment, and it is poor judgment. And there are some who believe that the only way we're going to try and keep AI from being used in a most negative way is if we limit the supply of the chips necessary to operate AI. Are we able to do that successfully, or is it like, no, we really can't? Mr. Curlin, do you have a sense of that?
So at BIS, Senator, you know, we have been imposing controls not only on entities that are involved in these types of diversionary attempts, but, you know, we have over the past year and a half rolled out a series of significant countrywide controls on China, in addition to parties not only that are resident there, but there are actors that are sitting in third countries as well. It is a complex problem set, and certainly with regards to the semiconductor ecosystem, where the vast majority of chips that are produced offshore, trying to identify potential violators is something that we all here are working hard to do, using all source intelligence, putting together analytical cells that are trying to identify those activities, working hand in hand with industry to both prevent on the front side, and then if there are violations, to have penalties that are high enough to deter others is critical. We've been doing that as an interagency. We've issued over a dozen multi-sealed documents just in the past year and a half that's trying to get at this problem set, is how do we get industry to harden their supply chains and their distribution networks? And then we're working globally, internationally. Chair Hassan mentioned, you know, some of the complications of our international partners. In most of these jurisdictions, the licensing folks are actually disconnected from the enforcement folks, right? And that creates a bit of a gap because the enforcement folks don't know what's coming into the system that's being licensed, and the licensing folks don't actually know what's going out, which is the biggest vulnerability, the things that should be coming into the system that aren't. And so we've been working very closely. We have attachés similar to HSI that are stationed now in 10 countries around the globe, trying to get our international partners to increase their capacity to identify and then take enforcement action in coordination with us. It's a challenge, but we're using all the tools at our disposal, industry, interagency, international, to try to get at making sure that these key technologies aren't getting into those hands. And where we identify it, we're either using criminal enforcement, administrative enforcement, or as I mentioned just this morning, we added 4 companies to our entity list in China that were explicitly diverting AI chips to the Chinese military weapons program so that we can alert industry and have them harden their supply chains when they're doing their due diligence of transactions.
And what will the penalties be for those corporations that have been, if you will, shipping those chips into China?
Sure. So they would be subject to criminal and/or administrative enforcement authority. So 20 years, up to 20 years in jail, or $1 million per fine. And then on the administrative side, we have a statutory maximum of $365,000, or twice the value of each violation. And as in the case of Seagate, that resulted in a $300 million penalty to set a deterrence level to say, we expect companies to put in place internal compliance programs where they're screening their transactions, and then when they find a problem, to come to us voluntarily through what we call a voluntary self-disclosure to tell us. Because if they don't do it, and there's a willful action or there's knowledge, then we're going to take aggressive action to try to deter others from shortchanging, and also putting those that are investing in compliance programs at a competitive disadvantage. So we want to level that playing field at the same time.
Ms. Choi, who's been the most successful in being able to get the key technologies that are vital and we have endeavored to restrict? Is it China or is it Russia? We read stories about Russia being able to get technologies that they're using in Ukraine. At the same time, we read about China. Just today, we've read more stories about China getting advantage of our technologies. Are they equally effective, or is one more effective than the other?
Senator Romney, I would say that I would refer you to the IC's annual threat assessment, which focuses on China's efforts in particular. I would say both of those countries pose concerns, but with regard to China, that threat assessment notes that China seeks to become a world science and technology superpower and to use this technological superiority for economic, political, and military gain. And among its various methods to do that, it includes means to acquire or steal IP, its cyber operations, and its illicit procurement. So I would say China is laser focused on trying to advance its science and technology program, and it's a focus for us at the Department of Justice.
Thank you. Senator Langford.
Mr. Romney, thank you.